Hello, Canada Files viewers. This is Aidan, Jonah, editor-in-chief of the Canada Files here. This is the 11th episode of Canada and Palestine, the War on Zionism. I'm here with Laith Marouf of Free Palestine TV. Laith, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So, Laith, we have had a incredibly significant 48 or so hours. The first thing before we get to the bigger point is, of course, the assassination attempt on a top Hezbollah commander, Fuad Shukur. Now, from what I understand, there's been some news that he did not pass, that he has survived. But Laith, can you take us through the situation in that case?
Yeah, it was an attack with two missiles on a eight-story building in the Haret Harik neighborhood, part of the southern suburb of Beirut, known as the Dahi in Arabic, which means suburb, by the way. And at least four civilians have been announced martyred, 78 injured. There's still five people in critical condition. The Hezbollah just uh, made a statement an hour ago, saying that Haj Shukr was in the building when the two missiles hit it, that they are still waiting for the rubble removal and the rescue teams to finish their work to make their conclusions, which means that there is a possibility that he is alive under the rubble, but we know now that he was in the building and he is still under the rubble. And in the statement, Hezbollah said that obviously the results of this rescue work will determine their retaliatory actions and what they will do next. So everybody's right now waiting to see what happens there. Half an hour ago, the Minister of Information of Lebanon gave a public press conference on behalf of the government of Lebanon. They had an emergency ministerial cabinet meeting, and he condemned this attack on Beirut and this, a martyrdom, killing, murder of civilians. We know until now, by the way, there's two children out of the four that were martyred. And he said that Lebanon is now on the edge. He called on international actors to, put the reins on the Zionists. But at the same time, he announced that the government of Lebanon has issued emergency funding to the internal security and health ministries, as well as the labor ministries, meaning that they are preparing for what could happen in a full-out war, or the situation rolling out on a bigger scale. So the state of Lebanon is preparing itself for any events that could happen, and the casualties that could come, and the destruction that could come. So we're moving on that very fast. We're all of course, heard all the statements from the Palestinian resistance groups, the Syrian government, the Iranian, Iraqi government, the Yemeni government, all of them condemning the assassination attempt here in Beirut. The next few hours will determine where we would be all standing.
All right, Laith. Well, if that event alone had have happened, it would have dominated the early part of the show anyways, but it was not even just that. So let's talk about the case for Ismail Haniyeh. Now, he was targeted for assassination in Iran. Now, from what I heard, there's two contradictory versions. One which alleges that these assassins went into the hotel directly and killed Haniyeh. The other is that there were missile strikes that targeted Haniyeh. So, Laith, do you mind taking us through this assassination and what we know at this point?
The official statement up until now of the Iranian government is that a surface-to-surface missile was fired from a neighboring country and hit the location where Ismail Haniyeh was staying, which is a kind of bed and breakfast situation for the uh, veterans in the Iranian military. It's a complex, servicing the veterans. And the president of Iran made a statement saying that, yesterday he had lifted the hand of Haniyeh in a victory during the celebrations of the inauguration of President of Iran. He just got into office yesterday, and there was a lot of international delegations in Tehran, by the way, when the assassination happened. So he said he lifted the hand of Haniyeh yesterday in victory, and today he has to carry him on his shoulders to his burial. And that Iran is preparing to defend its territory and its dignity, and that the enemies, the invading terrorists, should be prepared to regret their, criminal actions. So these are very high statements. And this comes, of course, that with all the other parts of the axis of resistance, Yemen and others saying this, that they are all now coordinating their activities in terms of how the response is going to come. Even we heard now from the Taliban in Afghanistan to add on top of the whole axis of resistance, making a statement of condemnation and readiness. The next 48 hours, as these two things combine together, the assassination or attempted assassination of Shukr here in Beirut and the assassination of Haniyeh in Tehran, and of course the attack on the headquarters and units of the popular mobilization units in Iraq that just happened last night also, and this morning, a second attack, all coming from American jets firing on Iraq from outside the Iraqi territory. We're seeing a coordinated attack on three countries in the last 12, 18 hours: Lebanon, Iraq, and Iran. And this is a coordinated attack by the US, NATO, and the Zionist colony. And we should be expecting that the response will be a coordinated attack from at least three members of the axis of resistance: Lebanon, Iraq, and Iran. The region is going to be engulfed in a full-out war in the next 24, 48 hours.
So I think the question on a lot of people's minds is going to be this. Iran and the general axis of resistance has been very determined to let the Zionist entity's internal contradictions drive it to self-destruction. These two, one assassination attempt and one assassination, though it could be two assassinations soon. Um, do you think it's going to lead the axis of resistance to pivot away from that path?
You see, the axis of resistance has, as you said, attempted to keep the killing field confined to the Gaza extermination camp, and to have all the other fronts to be support fronts that put enough pressure through a war of attrition to force a internal collapse of the Zionist colony, so there wouldn't be millions of people dead in this whole region in an all-out war. And they, unfortunately, I think, because they do not know the viciousness and of the elite in the West, they don't understand how Zionism is the religion of the Trudeaus, the Bidens, Merkels and others, that this would not happen. As we saw, Netanyahu went to Washington, got the 100% approval from all the establishment in the United States, with all their fake wings, Republican and Democrat. And this attack was coordinated before his arrival. And the purposeful, using the name of Shukr as a person who was wanted by the FBI in the United States is to show you that actually it was a US decision. And so right now, I think anybody within the axis of resistance that didn't see that there is no stopping for this war, except with either the defeat of the axis of resistance and or the defeat of the Zionist colony and the whole West behind them. This is where we're going right now. And everybody should be ready for this. And I think anyone that is in China right now, in the Russia, in Africa, and Asia, and Latin America that is watching this must understand that right now the Palestinian people and the acts of resistance are going to take on the empire on behalf of all of humanity. And all of the fate of humanity is dependent on the results of this battle.
All right, Laith. Well, the hits keep coming, and what's came is the situation, the occupied Golan Heights. There was a rocket attack there. Now, Israel claimed that Hezbollah was behind it. Hezbollah's very fiercely denied it. What is your best read of the situation there?
First off, this is Syrian territory.
Yes.
This is Syrian Golan occupied by the Zionists in 1967. Secondly, these were Syrian citizens that have rejected the Israeli citizenship in 1967 after the occupation. These are people that celebrate every year the Independence Day of Syria and fly the Syrian flags. These are the citizens of Majd al-Shams that have given martyr after martyr to the cause of liberating Syrian territory from occupation. And as we saw, the Zionist leadership that attempted to come to Majd al-Shams to take photos and pretend that they love the children of Arabic Syrian people, like Ben Gvir and Smotrich and Netanyahu, were all chased out of Majd al-Shams by the residents and the families of the martyrs, and had made statements condemning the Zionist attempt to use the blood of their children to cause more death and massacres in the region. And this also, these statements not only came from the Syrian citizens in the occupied Golan, but also from the leadership of the Druze sect across the whole region in Syria and Lebanon, in Palestine, in Jordan. All political and spiritual leaders of the Druze community condemned the Israeli plans and said that they will stand with the resistance axis in any attack that follows. And so now we saw the attack by the Zionist colony on Beirut last night. And now the stage is set. Finally, in terms of the missiles that fell, Hezbollah has been firing very precise missiles and drones, never missing its target since the beginning of this war. And as we saw over the last 10 months, there's been multiple incidents of Iron Dome missiles straying after missing their targets and actually hitting the edges of Syrian villages in the occupied Syrian Golan. This has happened multiple times and it's all recorded on video. And the Israeli claims that this was a Falak missile from Hezbollah. The Falak missile has a maximum range of 10 kilometers and it has a huge explosive head. We've seen many of these videos of what it does as damage to destroying whole bases, and to see how there is no um, damage, really much damage on the field, the soccer field, and the fact that it, shows you that this was not an explosive head, that this was very small, that it exploded before it hit the ground, for instance. That's a clear indicator that this was a stray Iron Dome missile. But now it doesn't matter really what was happening, because it's already been used as an excuse to attack Lebanon. And we're past that. We're now going to look at the response of Hezbollah to the attack in Beirut, and where we would go from there.
Well, I think shifting to the Canada side of things, we have the situation with the India's occupied Syrian Golan Heights. Now, of course, wouldn't you know it, Canada's Foreign Minister Melanie Joly came out and blamed Hezbollah, took the Israeli side fully. There's no shock there at all. Now, what's also interesting and horrifying is that it's called the quote unquote Canada well. It was the main water reservoir for Rafah. Israel blew that up. And again, wouldn't you know it, Canada has had nothing to say about it. So it's hard to say at this point. We feel like we're in the similar path where every week half the story is that the Zionist entity with Canadian support just commits the most horrific atrocities and then just fully backs Israel while pretending to be some sort of beacon of human rights and democracy and all that nonsense. Yeah, at this point, I'm just kind of asking where the depravity will end when the axis of resistance forces it to end, right? I mean, I'm not even going to bother to ask the question, right?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, look, we've seen the Labour Party in the UK pretend that it was going to stop selling weapons to the Zionist colony, and then right now saying that they're delaying that decision. And that's because we're going into a bigger war, because, anyways, it was just a fake statement. And similarly, right now in Canada, the state is not actually doing anything to support the Palestinians or end their, complicity in the genocide in Palestine. And we will see it do more than that. Now, if there's a full-out war in the region, and we already heard the American government saying that they will defend the Zionist colony from any attack, where do you think the Canadian military is going to stand and the Canadian government once this war starts? It's clear that the Zionists in Canada have control of the state and all its apparatuses, and that they're holding the whole country hostage. And this is a warning, I think, should be to all Canadians, that in a situation of a full-out war, there will be no trade passing anywhere on this planet. There will be no oil or gas. There will be, everything that you have in the fridge there is going to rot. Everybody is going to live the same fate as the Palestinians and the Arabic and Muslim people in this region. A world war will ensue. There is no way that Russia will not intervene if the United States enters this war. There's no way that China will not intervene. It's not only about the axis of resistance anymore. And the Canadian public that doesn't want a world war has a very narrow window right now to take action against the fascists, the Zionists that have control of their government. And if they don't do anything right now, it's going to be too late to do anything.
Yes, Laith, have a pretty concurrent position to you. There is a tiny little positive note, but I gotta emphasize that it's tiny. Canada, the CRA, Canada Revenue Agency, they're set to revoke the Jewish National Fund, the Canada branch of that, which I believe broke off from the JNF. They are going to be having their charitable status revoked. Now, we obviously saw some celebrations of this news. The Jewish National Fund of Canada, they're taking the federal minister of national revenue to court to try to get the decision reversed. So, what I understand, the JNF was trying to say that it's only signaled intention to revoke, trying to cut down, put pressure to prevent it from occurring. Whether this will happen or not is, I frankly have no clue because the Zionists are, well, they dominate the Canaan apparatus. So their prediction there is frankly useless because on principle and on laws, on Canadian laws, it's an obvious decision. But as we've discussed over the last couple of weeks, Canadian laws only get to function as long as they have use to the Canadian elite, right? So that's where things are very contradictory. We're really gonna have to see. But I have to be quite clear and when talking about this, in that we just saw a potential assassination of the Hezbollah commander. We saw assassination of the Palestinian resistance leader. We could be seeing a full-out war, and so this is like a mild little nice moment. I mean, sure, but I mean, it's frankly a tiny moment, and it is an indictment that this is the big victory that the Canadian left has supposedly been waiting for years, right?
Yeah, the Canadian leftovers.
Oh, well, I can't
Yeah,
dispute.
look,
Yeah, I'm not going to
listen,
dispute that. Yeah.
listen. This is irrelevant actually, right? And I'm gonna speaking to the Canadian public again. In this situation of a full-out war, what do you think is going to happen to the Canadian embassy here in Beirut? What do you think is going to happen to the Canadian and American embassies in the region? Do you think they'll be safe? Those in the Canadian public that want to confront organizations like the JNF should actually crash their offices, like the Palestine Action does to the weapon factories in the United Kingdom. None of these organizations should be allowed to function, and not by the will of the Canadian state, but by the will of the sovereign Canadian people. If there's anybody that has any honor in them in Canada, out of those that are pursuing these stupid legal actions that waste money and resources for our communities, they should be crashing the offices of the GNF, destroying their belongings, taking all their servers and outing all those who are funding such a fascist colonialist organization. And this should extend not only to the GNF, it should extend to all Zionist organizations in Canada. There's no more talk. There's no more lawyers and courts. We're beyond that. We're like at the most horrendous genocide in the 21st century. Actually, the worst genocide that we've seen since the end of World War II. And the Canadian public that wants to waste time like this are actually complicit. Those that call themselves leftists that are wasting time in these battles, useless battles, are complicit because they are drugging the public that has anger. Organizations that are doing this work are actually putting down the burning fire in the hearts of honorable Canadians. Stop playing these liberal games. Go ahead and call on the people to take radical revolutionary action. Nothing else will move anything in Canada or change the position of the Canadian colonial state.
It's yeah, it's a point I've raised. The Camp Files does Twitter Space once a week as well, and that's the point I've been trying to raise consistently. Is we talk, we talk, we talk, we talk, we talk, but what happens, right? And I've gotten to the point for a long time where I've been genuinely sick of the inaction and the grandiose talking. But it runs into a situation for like myself running the Canada Files, run the journalism organization. That's as much as I have in my hands in terms of power to do things. You got run out of Canada, but you've been able to build Free Palestine TV and keep CMAC alive, and do your journalism as much as you can. But we don't individually have that power to force the Canadian activists to functionally act. So it's just almost maddening sometimes. It's just, we can try to talk to, I guess we're breaking the fourth wall here to the audience, you, the audience, but, you know, what what is gonna what would actually make a Canadian activist take take that level of risk? I don't know. I don't know at this point. What is there any line for the Canadian activists? Is there any line?
I don't know. I mean, I thought about that for a long time, but all it takes is one person. Once one person does an example, others follow. And that's what revolutionary work is. So we don't have to talk to this blob of leftovers. We have to address ourselves to the individual. One person can change the course of history, and we call on at least one honorable person in Canada to take action.
All right, Laith. Well, I think that's a proper place to leave off this episode. This is definitely much more somber of an episode than usual, but given what's happened, I think that's more than reasonable. So, to the Canada Files audience, I do want to thank you all for making it to the end of this episode. Laith, you're in Lebanon. You are in the middle of the fire. Thank you, as always, and especially in this moment for being the co-host of this show.
Please, our viewers, because the war is going to break out any moment, donate to Free Palestine. That video as much as you can right now so we can, because it's going to be impossible for us to transfer money once the war starts. And we're putting together right now teams to be on the ground across Lebanon in the case of the breakout of this war and inside the West Bank. Free Palestine, that video, please send as much donations as you can.
Yes, and I'm very glad you brought that up, Laith. Normally I have a certain ending where I call for people to support both outlets. This time I'm going to say wait a week or two for the Canada Files. Put the money you have to Free Palestine TV, and that ask will come back maybe in 2 episodes or so. For now, Free Palestine TV should be your priority. If you appreciate the journalism that Free Palestine TV does, go donate to it now. Because frankly, you don't know, I don't know if we'll be able to get money your way later on. So everyone who's there and late as well, take care and thank you for being here to the end of the episode. Goodbye.